sugar and spice.
Hi, everyone. We're going to kick off right away, so a couple more minutes to take your seats, fill your drinks, and we have a very tight program tonight, so please get situated for the formal program portion of the evening. A couple more minutes to fill your drinks and have a seat. Thank you so much for coming. Awesome. Lots of seats over here, too. I'll keep my kindergarten teacher voice to a minimum for you all. Yeah, I agree. We do need kindergarten teachers. So I'm going to kick off here and thank everyone so much for coming to our second annual RAISE event. We're so excited to have you here today. I'm Alyssa Lefaivre Škopac. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Market Development for the Responsible AI Institute, and I have the privilege of emceeing and stewarding you through the evening. So for those that haven't been to a RAISE event before or haven't heard about it, RAISE is our annual community event dedicated to bringing a positive impact to the ecosystem and raising the bar for responsible AI. This year, we're co-hosting it with in collaboration with the AI Summit. We're so excited and so grateful for all of the attendees in person and the virtual ones that I know are watching around the globe. I want to start off by acknowledging the Munsee Lenape people whose Indigenous land we're residing on today. So many members and supporters in the room. I'm meeting some of you for the first time, and I've only seen your Zoom faces. You look great. Thank you so much to our big global community. So I'm going to take a second here and introduce all of our RAI team members here in the room, but also the ones that are virtual. Ashley Casovan, our Executive Director. Dr. Seth Dobrin, our newly appointed President. Wave, Seth. Shankar, he's our Director of Policy and Customer Success. Michael Stewart, one of our illustrious and dedicated board members. Aditi Laktakia, our Communications and Policy Coordinator. She's the other Skittle walking around the room. We did not coordinate this. And virtually, I know you're there, so Manoj Saxena, our Executive Chairman. Amanda Lawson, one of our other research and policy analysts, who is my partner in crime, emceeing virtually, and Benjamin Favre, who is another policy analyst that makes the RAI team work. So during our time today, we're going to give you a bit of an exciting 2020 year in review. What did we get up to? Brief overview of what we accomplished. A fireside chat with our colleagues from AWS and Partnership on AI. Give you a sneak peek of things to come in 2023. And finally, I think the part of the evening that we're all most excited for is our RAISE Awards. So really looking forward to that. So for those of you who are meeting the Responsible AI Institute for the first time, I'd like to introduce ourselves. We're a global member-driven nonprofit, and everything we do is to support organizations and practitioners to implement responsible AI at scale. So whether you're buying, building, or supplying AI, we're doing everything we can to show you what good looks like and to make this feasible for everyone in an emerging landscape. So we have tools, assessments, and a first-of-its-kind certification across the globe. And we have a global community of academics, policy analysts, advisors, regulatory, industry, civil society that are all passionate about our vision and investing in what we do. And we couldn't do it without our incredible community and many of you in this room. So with that, I'm excited to introduce our Executive Director, Ashley Casovan, to the stage to give the overview of the work we did in 2022. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. This is really, really exciting. It's amazing. I was just sharing with some people that it's one thing to see your community build online, but it's another thing to really see people come together in person. And I'm just flabbergasted, completely honored that you took the time to come here today. and hear more about the work that we're doing. And as Alyssa mentioned, really celebrating the community through the awards. So we won't keep this too long. There's a lot that we covered this year, which is we're really proud of. But first and foremost, before I get into all of the updates for you, I do want to say a huge thank you to the team, in particular, Alyssa. She's really spearheaded this event. Aditi, who many of you have been in contact with, and Amanda, who's running the online session. So thank you so much. If we could give a round of applause to them, I think it's great to recognize them and their efforts. So with that, our team has been very busy this year. We have officially launched our certification program, which, thank you. It's very exciting, trust me. And one of the things that we get asked about a lot, because many of you are following the draft EU AI Act and some of the other regulations that are coming, is what's the difference between certification and conformity assessments? So certification is like the stamp saying, yes, this is done. And so when we're talking about conformity assessments, we're talking about the thing that the auditors are going to use to assess. And so the fact that we are now under review through national accreditation bodies really is quite a significant feat in trying to think through how do we have harmonization of AI standards in a context-specific way. And so with that, we've really, for those of you that have been following our journey for a while, have really underscored the importance that not all AI systems are exactly the same. And so it's quite important for us to think about how do we certify an automated employment system and a automated lending system, and what are those differences? What are those different harms that could come to people? And so from that, we're really happy again to not only be under formal review on this, but really have thought through that context specificness that it comes to what those different things are. And so finally on the certification, to be able to test this out, one of the key things for us is not just to create what does responsible AI mean and how do we mitigate those harms, but make sure we're doing that through official channels, through formalized processes, so that there's trust and confidence in what we're building. We're not just a group of people that are coming together and saying, this is what good looks like. And so for us, and that emphasis on it, we're testing out our own work. And so we are really happy to share that we are doing a pilot on our automated lending certification program with a bank in Canada called ATB Financial. And then EY is going to be the auditor for that. We do anticipate that there will be other certification pilots that will come out in this coming year, but you'll have to wait until those announcements in the future. So the certification program is our bread and butter of what we do, and thinking about those different norms that we have to create. But we can't do this alone, and we can't do it just in one region. And so for us, what we did this year was realized that while the US is an important market, we've been operating quite a bit in Canada. We really needed to have a gateway to Europe. And the UK in particular has put forward principles through their AI policy statement related to really recognizing that context-specific nature of the need for AI regulation to come through those different domain regulations. And so for that reason, we really wanted to expand to the UK. We were fortunate enough to participate in this summit there earlier this year. And then through that, we did a regulatory panel with the Center for Data Ethics and Innovation. We'll share some of the upcoming regulatory panels that we have to, again, really validate and test that what we're building with this conformity assessment and certification program is in line to help demonstrate compliance with regulation. So from that perspective, we're really excited to have expanded to that region. I just got a question earlier on a talk that I was providing whether or not we'll go to Japan and other places, hopefully in the future. Really, our community, which I'm going to come to next, helps dictate what our priorities are, both in terms of the certification program, but also in terms of the regions that we operate and function in. So with that, we're really, really happy and pleased to, again, see all of you here today, because this is really the heart of what makes us not only continue to motivate the work, but also, again, to help to inform that. And so through dialogues with you as individuals, with your organizations, and just broader advocacy that I know some of you are researchers in this audience, have really demonstrated the need for having oversight over these systems. And so from that perspective, we do want to continue to advocate on your behalf. We want to make sure that what we're learning from these different pilots and from industry organizations, we're feeding in and we're vetting with you within that community, and that we're feeding that back into standards and regulatory development. One of the key things that you can see here, I won't go through the statistics on the side, but you can see that our community has grown quite significantly, and we're incredibly, incredibly proud of that. We hope that the information that we're sharing is valid and useful for you. Please continue to give us feedback on what makes the most amount of sense and what you want to see more of, because again, that will help us to really advocate appropriately around that standards development. Through that and through events like this, we're really, really encouraged to be able to continue to advocate, share the awareness and messaging around what we're doing. In conversation with someone earlier, and this has happened to me many times, they say, oh, we've been thinking about that. We want to build something like that, but we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And so it's really important for us to be able to be on stages like this, to share what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then make sure that we're working together as a collective, as opposed to a bunch of independent actors. Our ability to do this, it's difficult. It's complex what we're trying to tackle. And so together, we'll be able to make that a real reality. And so finally, we want to use the platform that we've been creating to highlight incredible work in the community, both of our individual contributors, of our members, and whether it is research that you're working on, whether it is a system that you're building, please let us know. We are more than happy to then provide a spotlight on that work. We did have some webinars this year. We hope to increase those in the future, and to really, again, be able to demonstrate not only the importance of AI oversight, but also to make sure that as we're taking in all of the best things from the community and really raising those up. So that brings us to some very, very exciting news. So today we have announced a few new members. You would have seen over the past few weeks that we've been sharing some member announcements. What really keeps us going as an organization are our members, both for financial support, but also for that information that we get in terms of how AI systems are actually being built and how that contributes then to our learning and understanding of the different types of oversight that's required for them. And so we now have AWS. We're going to be hearing from Christian in a moment on our Fireside chat around the importance of implementing these standards in a large technology company like AWS. This joins IBM and other companies that have been members for other years, or continue to be members this year. And then also we have organizations like SkyHive who are really trying to think through how do you build systems in an ethics first perspective. BCG, who is working with probably lots of your organizations to really think through readiness of all of these efforts, and CareRev, Calypso AI, Seek Out, Fairly, the AI Responsibility Lab, who through their various different platforms are really helping us to not only advance the message, but again, to help to inform us so that the work that we're doing is being done in a meaningful, useful, and impactful manner. That means that they're joining these other leaders who have been contributing to our efforts over several years, and we couldn't be more pleased. We'd love to see more of your logos up here in years to come. And it's really important to note that in addition to our members, as I've mentioned, we have individual contributors, individual members to our efforts who we learn a great deal from. But through these various different ecosystem collaborations, we also are able to do some of the pilots that I was speaking about, some of the regulatory panels, and quite a bit of research that is needed to be foundational in this space to really help to advance our efforts. And so through that, we've really been thinking about the different types of research that we need to continue to do, the different types of regulatory requirements that we need to share with different types of governments and policymakers. Having come from that space myself, we know the importance of having good policy, good regulation. Therefore, we want to continue to strengthen this. So as always, if you're interested in contributing to our efforts, please do let us know in whatever capacity that may be. And so with that, before we get into our fireside chat, where we really talk about the actual implications of these systems, one of the things for us that we're really following quite closely is the need to have the conformity assessment and certification work that we're doing align with forthcoming regulation. One of the things that's been shared with me recently is that even though these regulations do seem to be a couple of years out, the one that most companies seem to be very concerned with is the proposed EU AI Act. These projects are multi-year projects. So by the time that you're starting them now, you're really going to have to think about what the implications for these future regulations will be. And part of the work that we're doing is help navigate that, help to set some benchmarks and standards related to what that is. Again, in consultation, in collaboration with all of those members and partners that I spoke about previously. And again, individual contributors are a huge, play a huge role in that. Finally, we, even though often it's things like the EU AI Act that are talked about the most, it would be remiss if we didn't mention the importance of things like the New York City bill on automated employment systems. In under less than a month, it will come into fruition. And so this is something where we're starting to see the first real requirements for what automated employment systems need to be evaluated on and what those implications are for companies that want to operate within New York City. We see this have ripple effects in states, in other municipalities across the world, and only anticipate that that's going to be strengthened more. So all of this work that we're doing that I've spoken about previously is really taking all of those requirements into account and making sure that this makes sense and we can help organizations to move forward with this. We saw this year, at the end of the year, that the Biden administration has released a blueprint for the AI Bill of Rights. And for those of you that are interested in understanding the implications of that and don't have time to read through the whole thing, Var from our team has done a really great blog post on those implications. So please check that out on responsible.ai. And finally, in Canada, there's been a introduction of an AI and Data Act. It's been amalgamated with a consumer protection bill and data privacy bill. It looks like those will be separated now. However, what's really interesting is to think about the fact that AI systems are not necessarily new. The concept of oversight of them is not necessarily new. So how do we integrate things like data requirements, consumer protection requirements, and really think about these things holistically and together? And I think that bill is really helpful for that. With that said, I'd love to really bring some experience, some real tangible understanding of how to do this with two of our key community members. So Christian Troncoso, who's the principal of Global AI Policy at AWS, and Christine Custis, who is the director of programs and research at Partnership on AI. We've had the opportunity to work both with Christian and with Christine to really think through some of the implications of this stuff I'm talking about. It seems high level. We're here to like share these updates. Come on over, sit in these chairs. But I think what's really important is for all of you to hear how what this actually means. And so I'll just transition over to the chairs with both of them. And we'll have a discussion about how standardizing AI governance will ensure the responsible use of AI. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
So just to start with, I'd love to have both of you introduce yourselves, your organizations, and some of the work that you're doing related to AI governance.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Again, I'm Dr. Christine Custis, Director of Programs and Research for the Partnership on AI. We're a nonprofit organization with about 105 partners, and we're really interested in being a part of the conversation of how we create, develop, deploy AI systems that benefit people and society. So we have a lot of synergies with your organization. I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation with you. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us.
And my name is Christian Troncoso. I'm with AWS, and I have a very strange title of Principal of Global AI Policy. What that essentially means is I have, I think, two functions, an internal function and an external role. Sort of internally, I'm helping our product teams and our legal teams sort of read the tea leaves in terms of where the regulatory landscape is moving and help put together sort of a roadmap internally for how the company will remain in compliance. Because as you can imagine, a company the size of AWS, it's not like you can snap your fingers and overnight sort of be in compliance with very complicated laws like Ashley mentioned, the EU AI Act. And then externally, my team engages globally to work with policymakers and regulators as they're thinking through how they can achieve their sort of regulatory, what they're trying to achieve in terms of putting in place the right safeguards to make sure that the benefits of AI are going to accrue to their country, but also that their citizens are protected against some of the harms that can arise when AI systems aren't operating as intended.
Great, thanks. So Christian, we'll stick with you to start with. Can you share a little bit more about, from an industry perspective, you mentioned AWS, obviously household name, large producer of AI systems. You're starting to think through the implications of these regulations. What does that mean for you? Especially you're mentioning it, kind of highlighted, it takes a while for us to really embed these in our practices. Can you speak a little bit more to those challenges and how standards in particular are a good opportunity?
Yeah, so I mean, as I sort of alluded to a moment ago, in the current moment, I think everyone's just sort of reading the tea leaves in terms of where these regulatory developments are going to go. One of the real challenges is that these conversations are happening in literally every capital around the globe, and sort of in the US at least, every state capital as well. So, and for that matter, cities as well, the New York City law that you referenced a few moments ago. So the challenge for a company, any company that operates globally, is that there's a realization that there's about to be this complicated thicket or web of global regulation that you're going to need to comply with. And so figuring out how you're going to comply with all of these different laws that have the potential to be inconsistent with each other is, pretty nerve-wracking. And so I think one of the reasons, there are several reasons that we're really invested as a company in the development of technical standards. The obvious one being that technical interoperability is really important. We want systems to be able to speak to each other. Anyone who has a phone in their hand, wants to be able to connect to Wi-Fi or connect to their Bluetooth speaker. Standards are what make that possible. But what's interesting to me is that in the AI space, beyond just technical interoperability, which is crucially important, we think that standards are going to play a crucial role in bringing about sort of regulatory interoperability. So we're at this unique moment in time where AI as a technology is evolving so rapidly. I mean, this week everyone's talking about GPT-3 chat. Last week it was stability diffusion. Every sort of week it seems like there's a new cycle around what people's focus is on. So at the same time that the technology is moving so quickly, regulators are trying to figure out how to put regulatory structures in place to control for the potential harms of a technology, again, that is changing, it seems like, overnight. But at their core, I think most regulators and most legislators, for that matter, have similar objectives in mind. They want to make sure that AI systems are adequately transparent, that they're operating in a manner that is fair, that companies who deploy AI have put in place, reasonable risk management functions, that they're, understand the provenance of the data that they're using, all those sorts of things. And that seem very simple, like at a conceptual level, but these are also, mechanisms that are still being really debated and figured out at the standards level. So the hope is that as regulators are and legislators are putting together their policies, that they will at least try to align those policies to these technical standards that are currently being developed at organizations like ISO and IEEE. And to the extent that there is regulatory alignment to these technical standards, the hope is then that those standards will be sort of like a Rosetta Stone that companies can use that, look, we know we're going to have make sure our systems are adequately transparent. As long as every regulator is like aligned conceptually to the technical ISO standard around AI transparency, then there will be a path to comply with this complicated web, this thicket of AI regulation that's going to emerge. Yeah. And so just indulge me, I apologize if I'm rambling. This is also why we think organizations like RAII are going to be really important, because these standards, while they're going to be very, somewhat specific, they are not going to be tied to specific industries or to particular use cases. And so in addition to the standards, we're going to need sort of a last mile that connects between the regulation to the standard to the specific use case. And that's where we're really hopeful and optimistic about the work that Ashley and the Ray team is doing about providing sort of that last mile.
Thanks. No, really appreciate that. Christine, do you want to add to that or?
Yeah, I'll say that although we don't focus in on certifications or that monitoring aspect, we're really keen on being parts of conversations as early on as possible. So early in the life cycle, even when developers are determining whether or not AI is even the best choice for this business case, who's in the room, who's being invited to those conversations, and through a practice of equitable inclusion throughout the entire life cycle of development, including all the different stakeholders and actors, we get to a lot of those questions that are going to be relevant so that we can show that we have good intention and we have acted in good faith so that we can prepare for things like certifications and standards and things like that.
And interestingly, you're also a member-driven organization where you're really learning from, I think that meaningful piece to me is so important, where it's not just having conversations in the abstract, it's using real use cases like Christian's mentioning. And I think that harmony that Partnership on AI has been able to bring together with research and these discussions is quite important. Can you speak to some of the research projects that you have that I think are Christian talked about the last mile, but you're one of those, the first miles, when thinking about some of the standards development, really.
Yes, we have some really exciting work, I'll say, not just in foundational research, but also just thinking about how we create artifacts and assets that are meaningful to the practitioner. So we have work happening in our labor and the economy program that's relevant to responsible sourcing, that there are real human beings labeling this data, cleaning this data. Are they being paid well? Are they being treated well? This is part of the work, right? Also thinking about shared prosperity. And as AI continues to evolve and increase, we don't want the human experience to decrease, just making sure that the use of AI in the workplace is one that is equitable and thoughtful. We have work happening in our media and integrity program where we're looking at synthetic and manipulated content, which is a big deal for a safe experience on the internet. So what risk mitigation can we do with mis and disinformation? And we're working together with partners to create a code of conduct. It's prior to legislation, but it will be influential to policymakers as they can see what might we do as an ecosystem to manage synthetic media, and how can we prepare for laws. We're thinking about local news and how AI impacts local news. Many of them are getting their information from platforms like Twitter. So what do we do if that is not reliable? We're thinking also about inclusive research and design, thinking about making sure that teams know how to do this type of work. We're creating curriculum around methods for participatory research. Also thinking about our own equity agenda, like practicing what we preach. How do we operate? Is it transparent? You know, and then also thinking about safety critical systems. In the medium term, 5 to 10 years from now, what should we be concerned about? What type of risk discovery can we do? What are the mechanisms of harm? So all of this founded on an equitable approach toward policy considerations to prepare for conversations like the one you all are having around certifications, standardization, and such.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And Christian, I think that some of the conversations that we've had, I really love this idea of a thicket. I mean, I really like that because it's a complex landscape. It's happening at state and local level. One of the things we've heard recently is responsible AI burnout, and I've been like, we're not even there at regulation yet people are kind of bombarded with this so much. So, and I think the thicket is a good way to describe and visualize that challenge. But can you share some of the ways that AWS is thinking about this? I know some things that we talk about are even just the need for standards around what does a high risk system actually mean? So some of the challenges that Christine mentioned, but there's probably other considerations that you have when thinking about the need for standards as it relates to unpacking the thickets.
Sure. And I mean, so we are at the early stages of all of these policy discussions, but you know, I don't think any company should or can wait to start trying to implement responsible AI practices within their company now. And so that's something that we've been very committed to as a company, and there's always more that every company can do. But we've in recent months made some real progress, I think. So AWS is unique, maybe not totally unique, but we are sort of an infrastructure company in many ways. We provide a lot of just the core computing power that other companies use to build their own AI systems. We also provide sort of SageMaker and ML ops tools that companies use to build their own AI systems. And within SageMaker, there are a lot of pre-trained models. And then we have some sort of managed AI services as well. The point is that we help other companies generally build their own AI solutions. And so we recognize, though, that sort of ultimately responsible AI is a shared responsibility both of AWS and our customers. And so we're trying to create tools and services that help them along their responsible AI journey as well. And so there's a lot of tooling built into SageMaker to help companies identify whether data sets are imbalanced or adequately representative. We have responsible AI guidance that we provide anyone that it's free, open to the free and open to the public, but that is designed to provide guidance around to companies who are using our services. And then just recently at our big developer conference last week, we rolled out a new initiative that we're calling AI service cards, which is we are now going to commit, and we've already started rolling these out, to providing service cards that provide some insight into how our managed AI services have been built and sort of some of the design decisions that went into those AI systems and how we have sort of evaluated their performance and sort of what the sort of limitations and intended use cases of these AI services are. And so really what this is intended to do is provide some level of transparency across the supply chain, because if a company is building their own AI system using tooling and components from other companies, they need to understand sort of that the commitments to responsible AI, both within their own company, but are also reflected in the tools and the components that they are sourcing and that they're building on top of. And so really that's what the vision of AI service cards is. And we're really excited about it. We've rolled out the first 3 service cards last week at reInvent, and we'll be continuing to roll those out.
Yeah, and documentation is kind of the first step, both that regulation's asking for, but also, again, going back to kind of Christine and the work that PAI has done. PAI was with your partners, so lots of other companies are thinking about that type of documentation, data nutrition labels, things like service cards, model cards, etc. PAI has really been at the forefront of thinking about what that documentation is, how we standardize that so that there's comparability between that. And so some of the other things that I think can build from that documentation are other projects that you've spun out, like the AI incident database. Can you speak a little bit to that and why that was important work that's helping to inform now?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the Fairness, Transparency, and Accountability Program does do a lot with documentation. It's a compendium of resources from all sorts of subject matter experts who have done work in that space. And when they were having these conversations early on, Sean McGregor, who is the engineer, the brilliant engineer who helped to architect the AI incidents database, just thought of a way to, I call it like keeping the receipts, just all the incidents where AI has caused harm. And harms is a big spectrum, right? Not necessarily fatal, but hey, if your private information shows up somewhere, that harms you. So it's a database, the AI incidents database. You can go out there and look at it. It's really amazing. It captures all the news stories, incidents that show up online of AI causing harm. And this is a way to catalog a repository of harms towards figuring out ways we can get organizations to self-report, to come back and tell us, what did you do to resolve this? What are you thinking about doing to mitigate future harm? So it's a really great open source opportunity for organizations to share their learnings around incidents, issues, and opportunities, sort of like the airline industry. There are different brandings on all the planes, but they're all the same machine. So we kind of need to share information.
Yeah.
If there's issues going on with one that will affect the other. So it's a really great resource. And that's something that we worked together with Sean for about a year. We supported that for a year, and then it sort of spun off into this open source, community architected, community-based project. And it's doing some really exciting things that we're happy about.
Yeah, we're super pleased to, we didn't get the chance to talk about all of our community members that have joined, but AI Incident Database is one of those. And thanks to your connection on it. And I think just in having conversations with Sean, it's been really great to see how that community source aggregation, and Christian, you talked about sharing that information publicly and open, and lots of tech companies are, which I think is really helpful. It's how do you now then take that, and what we're talking about with Sean is how do you do analysis on those so you can understand the common harms that are occurring across certain types of systems and then build mitigation requirements for those. And so that's part of what we're really trying to think through in terms of what does oversight of these systems look like? What does it need to be? But based in reality, based on data, based on testing use cases. And so one of the projects that we've started to work on together is around automated skin detection systems. And a big piece of that was even just understanding what are the harms that are coming from the use of these systems. And would love to share, or would love for you to share a little bit more, not just about that project, but then kind of your involvement and why you think that that's an important activity to continue to support.
Yes, I will say it's super important, not just because you're trying to create a certification process whereby some, medical device is certified or some process or methodology is certified. It's super important that you're doing it from a perspective of a domain. I think what we're going to see with legislation that is forthcoming, with laws, with policy, it's going to be really tough to do a broad stroke policy that is very general and covers everything. We're going to have to talk about cases and scenarios and domains and verticals and where does this fit and communities that are impacted. So it's just going to be this cornucopia of all these different moving parts that we have to consider. Right? And to keep in mind as we try to figure out, was this built in good faith? Was this built with good practice? And where is it documented? Where can I see it? So it's a great project.
Well, and I think I think what's really important about that is that we're recognizing, okay, there's this process. We're building a recipe really for how do we build these conformity assessments, but through it, being able to have things like the incident database, having the service cards, having model cards, to fall back on to say, okay, well, here are ways that we can actually start to test. And Christian, you're mentioning, I think this idea of the distinction between developer deployer is really important, and we don't talk about that enough related to regulation. You're mentioning you're providing a lot of general purpose AI, but there's the end consumer is getting it often from another organization. And so there's probably some considerations there when we're thinking about the impacts of AI that are potential that you're trying to kind of institute. If you could just speak to that a little bit more through your processes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complicated question that we could, have spent the whole panel on. But I mean, ultimately, I think we, as a company that provides a lot of components and tooling and infrastructure, acknowledge that, like, although we are sort of not as close to the consumer or to the risks, that it's still important for us to provide information to our customers, who are the companies that are building on top of our infrastructure and using our tooling. And I mean, I think that's the mindset that will need to prevail for any of this to work, that there needs to be sort of information sharing along the supply chain to ensure that the company who is deploying an AI system has the information that they need in order to effectively manage the risk of the complete system. And so I think that's the direction that, we're heading and other companies are heading as well. A big question mark about how the EU AI Act will resolve some of these big sort of unanswered questions. There's a lot of ambiguity in the Commission's proposal on some of these issues. But we're seeing sort of, in conversations in Brussels, that there's an acknowledgement that there needs to be some tightening up on this specific issue about how you manage risks across the supply chain and sort of which entities are best positioned to identify and mitigate risks and all those sorts of things.
I apologize, I don't remember the exact name of it, but I think that the model that you've created for SOC certification is a really interesting one, with how you're providing that, again, kind of in an open way of this is, and creating requirements too within your procurement processes, that anybody leveraging your platform needs to have cybersecurity certification like SOC 2.
Yeah, so I mean, just as we provide infrastructure for AI systems, we're frankly much better known for providing cloud infrastructure. And so a lot of these conversations we're having now around AI and responsible AI in some ways mirror the conversation that's been happening in the cybersecurity world for 15 20 years or so. And there's, I think the difference though is that in the cybersecurity space, there was this, deep bench of technical standards that had already existed. At the moment in time, most regulators were trying to figure out how to regulate for cybersecurity. In the AI space, obviously, we're in this moment where like these technical standards are still being developed at the same moment in time that regulators are figuring out how to regulate. And so that's what's creating, I think, a little bit, we're all, I think I probably alluded to it 3 or 4 times in my first answer, reading the tea leaves.
Yeah.
But we're, cautiously optimistic.
So both of you, we have 45 seconds left. What's one takeaway that you would love to leave the audience with as a tangible next step or action?
I'll say that inclusivity in terms of participatory research, that you not create, develop, and deploy in a vacuum, that you open the aperture and have folks be a part of that conversation, especially folks who will be impacted by the technology you create.
I think for AWS, it's constant work with our customers to better understand how we can help support them in their sort of responsible AI journey, and understanding how they are viewing this sort of oncoming thicket of regulation, and how we can better work together to sort of make sure that everyone stays ahead of of compliance and ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Inclusion and readiness, I think, are really important, great takeaways. Thank you so much. Would love to give a round of applause to both of you, and a huge, huge thank you for not only helping us to understand this space more, but create the use cases and the research and the work to really help us build this. So with that, would love to wish you a good night. Christian, you have an important flight to catch. So thank you. And you're not done with me yet. Don't worry. Sorry. But I would, with that, love to invite Seth Dobrin. Thank you. We're really, really excited to, in addition to growing our membership, grow our team. And as you can see, this has been a lot of work that we've been doing. We've been very, very focused on certification, building this groundwork. And we really need to have help scaling that. And so I'm really, really pleased to have Seth join our team as president. We're going to work alongside one another to really advance these efforts. And so I'm going to turn it over to Seth. Oh, I forgot the clicker somewhere.
I grabbed it.
Okay, perfect. To be able to share what's coming next.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Super excited to be here. I'm really, really excited to join the Ray Institute and help, make the Ray Institute the de facto standard for how you assess whether or not your AI is responsible. And so really want to talk about how we're going to help organizations move forward. And Alyssa alluded to this earlier, where we're really focused on helping organizations do 3 things. We're helping organizations build AI, we're helping organizations buy AI, and we're helping organizations sell AI in a responsible manner. And when you break it down that simple, what Ashley and team have built to date has set the groundwork for the Ray Institute to really take off and fill in a gap that exists in the market, especially with the New York AI Automated Hiring Act that came out, Automated Employment Act. There are no tools to help organizations do that. And so, when you look at the systems through the 6 dimensions that are part of our conformity assessment that Ashley and teams have built, you really get a good view of things that are often missed when people talk about responsible or trustworthy AI. When in my previous life, when I was at IBM, I hardly ever talked about accountability or consumer protection, but those are really critically important parts of how you assess whether an AI is built in a responsible manner. The conversation just now was talking about inclusivity and access and things like that. Those are often important dimensions that get left out. And then when we looked at how to demonstrate commitment, so organizations are investing a lot of time and a lot of resources into making their AI be responsible. How do they express to the external world that we're doing this and that this AI system is in fact responsibly built and it's been measured? Well, we've taken the conformity assessment that's been built and we're aligning it much like you would, and it's interesting you brought up SOC in the previous, or security in the previous conversation. When organizations do SOC audits, right, they're assessing the security and operations of their software. They do internal self-assessments. And then they will go to a second party assessment. They'll have someone come in and check their work before they pay an auditor to come in and do a full-blown audit to provide a SOC certification. Responsible AI needs to be approached in a very similar manner. And the difference between a SOC and a responsible AI is there may be instances, and there are instances, where a self-assessment is perfectly fine. I want to be able to attest to the external world that, yes, this doesn't directly impact a human's health, wealth, or livelihood, but that we still care enough that this is responsibly built. We still invested the time and resources. Or there may be something that kind of borders on the impact of health, wealth, or livelihood of a human being. And we want to have a second person come in and check our work. And so we'll have a non-auditor, second party, come in and check our work and make sure that the AI is in fact responsibly, or like ATB is doing in Canada with EY, they're doing a full-blown audit to make sure that their lending is in fact implemented in a responsible way that conforms with the appropriate standards. And when we think about how to accelerate your responsible AI journey, I talked about this when I was talking about the maturity model. Really, we need to look at how we build AI. So just about every organization in the world, to some extent, is building AI. How do they understand the maturity of the organization? How do we help organizations get a good assessment, a good baseline, know what policies, controls, and governance they do and don't have and what they need to put in place? And also help them get a good idea of what regulations exist out there in the world, in the parts of the world that they do business in, and in parts of the world where we have the resources, we'll invest time, such as VAR's and Amanda's, in really understanding and getting detailed analysis of what those potential impacts are. And then buying AI. Every organization is buying software that has AI in it. If you're buying software, it has AI in it more than likely. Otherwise, you wouldn't be buying it because it's going to have limited value. And so how do we assess that when I'm buying AI, that this AI is in fact responsible? So if I'm an organization doing business here in New York, how do I know that if I'm buying hiring software, that AI is in fact responsibly built, and it will meet my standards, let alone New York standards, for what happens when I hire someone in the state? And then supplying AI. A lot of our new members, as you saw when Ashley had the slide up, or Alyssa had the slide up earlier, were smaller organizations that are focused on supplying AI, whether it's HR software with organizations like Seekout and Skyhive, or if it's platform capabilities such as the AI Responsibility Lab, Fairly, or Calypso, right? These are organizations that are supplying AI or supplying platforms that build AI. How do they help their organization, their customers, A, understand that what they built is responsible, and B, how do they help them build responsible AI? And then finally, I want to talk about what to watch for in 2023, or Ashley will talk about this.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So just building from what Seth's been talking about, it's really important for us to then embed this within the market, embed it within getting ready, like we were just talking about on the Fireside chats. And so Seth's really going to be leading that effort along with Alyssa and the great work that she's built this past year. And from my perspective, we're still really going to need to think through that long-term strategy. What's that long tail of governance that's required? And like we talked about, having those conversations with regulators is a big piece of it. So we're really excited to announce that January 26th and 27th in London, we will be having a regulatory roundtable. It's going to be a regulatory comparison of the UK's approach and Canada's approach. It's sponsored by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, as well as the UK consulate in Canada. And these are really important dialogues to really help us to understand what does context-specific regulation mean? What is this balance or tension between innovation and protection of the public? How do we resolve those things? And so these are the different types of dialogues that we're really helping to drill down, similar to some of the use cases and things that we spoke about earlier. Given who's involved, it will also be supported by the Bank of England. You can imagine what the topic is going to be for that one, but we really seek to do this in other industries, moving beyond that. Speaking of which, you can hear we've talked a lot about employment, financial services, about health. And so as Seth was mentioning, we're really looking to expand our roadmap of then certifications that will be available. And so we've spent the better part of this year really building that recipe, as I was saying, in thinking about how do we understand what those impacts or those harms are, like we talked about with Christine. How do we do analysis of that? And then really think through what those mitigation factors are. What standards exist already that we can apply to that? What laws are already in place, like the Equal Opportunity or Equal Employment Act, that already have rules in place? And so from that perspective, we'll keep doing more and more of that. And as I was mentioning at the beginning, all of you help us to decide what those priorities are. So please get involved. Please continue to contribute, and you can help to really solidify that roadmap. And probably coming as no surprise, since many of our leadership are Canadian, we will actually officially launch in Canada. And we're really, really looking forward to that, as we've had some great partnerships in similar way with the UK government, with the Canadian government. I'm really excited to, along with Phil Dawson, who is also in the room, have been nominated to co-chair the Canadian AI Standards Collaborative. And so wearing kind of both of these hats will be really important for us to be able to really think through those important implications, and again, continue to advocate and contribute to the formalization of standards in a meaningful way. And last but not least, with many of our partners, we'll share more coming up in the next, I was going to say a couple of weeks, but I guess Christmas is in the way. So it's a couple of weeks post-Christmas, so mid to late January. We'll share more about a procurement campaign. So we were kind of alluding to it on that Fireside chat, with that need to not just set policy, but create procurement practices that are including these safeguards as well. So like we talked about with the SOC certification, how do we get organizations to embed that into their processes? And so with our partners, including Berkeley, Data Nutrition Labs, Citrus Labs at Berkeley, and others, we're really looking to include some language for all of you on around responsible AI procurement in your master services agreements. So look forward to that. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Again, well, I'll be up here, be Vanna White with Seth on the awards, but now is the time to celebrate all of you. So I'd love to bring Var up. Yeah, Var.
Hey, while Var's coming out, I want to really reiterate what Ashley said earlier about the team that put this together. They did some great work. Alyssa, Gab, Aditi, Amanda, Var. You guys really did a phenomenal job. Let's give them a round of applause too before we do the awards.
Fantastic. Okay, Var, over to you.
This is the part of the evening that we're most excited about, the Raise Awards. Our award nominees and recipients were chosen based on a public nomination and voting process, as well as direct input from our community members. We had dozens of nominations and over 700 votes tallied. So the first award is the Leading Community Organization Award. Okay, this is to recognize an outstanding nonprofit or academic organization that has had a meaningful impact in the responsible AI community through its research initiatives, open source projects, or partnerships. And this year's winner is Mila. I know that Allison Cohen is joining us virtually. Allison leads applied projects for Mila's AI for Humanity initiative, and we'll make sure that we send you this award. Congratulations. Next, our Leading Startup Award to recognize an outstanding organization that has made meaningful contributions to responsible AI through its work. This can include any organization that identifies a startup, whether for-profit or not for-profit, as long as it's launched within the last few years. And this year's winner is Skyhive. And accepting the award on behalf of Skyhive are Sean Hinton and Mohan Reddy. Please come up to the stage to collect your award.
Okay, we'll come to you. All right. Oh, that was a big leap up.
Yeah.
Perfect. There you go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Congratulations.
Sean is the CEO and Mohan is the CTO of Skyhive. Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next category is the leading individual, to recognize an outstanding individual that has led meaningful work in the field of responsible AI. And this year's winner is Elizabeth Adams. So
Elizabeth, come on up.
please come on up and collect your award.
I would love to mention that this was a very tight category. And huge congratulations to Elizabeth. I don't know if you want to do it. Yeah, go around. Okay, great. Please be safe.
You have to keep going.
You have to keep going. This was.
Elizabeth is the Chief AI Ethics and Culture Advisor and Affiliate Fellow at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence.
Thank you for being responsible.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You got to hold your award.
Yeah.
Very well deserved.
Yes. Great.
Congratulations.
All right.
I'm just
And
gonna stand here.
finally, our Leading Enterprise Award. This is to recognize an outstanding company or enterprise that has made meaningful contributions to responsible AI adoption solutions or research. And this year's winner is Jackson. I know that Marina Ashiatau and Jeffrey Shattuck are joining us remotely, and Marina is the VP of Data and AI at Jackson, and Jeffrey is Director of AI. So we'll make sure that we send you this award. Congratulations. Okay, that concludes our RAISE Awards for this year. Congratulations to all of our nominees and all of our recipients. And now I'll hand it over to Alyssa.
Thanks, Far. Yay! I was watching from backstage. I was like, yes. All right. So it's just some brief closing remarks to wrap up, and want to say a massive amount of thank yous to everyone that made this possible. The AI Summit co-located with us this year, and it was massive. It was really such a great opportunity, and we're so grateful for all the work with the catering, the AV team in the back as well. They rock. So thank you. I'm gonna just give other people up here, and then they change your notes. The team has been exceptional. You know who you are. I did forget to mention Gab and Umang when I introduced the team, so sorry. Thank you. And mostly to all of our members, community, and everyone that makes our work possible and the passion behind what we do. We're so grateful. It's been a crazy year. It's been super exciting, and we couldn't be more thrilled about what's out looking for 2023. So that's it. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the day tomorrow. There's going to be the AI Awards for Ashley is nominated for an Innovator of the Year award. So please check that out at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of the summit. And thank you so much. Congratulations to all the winners.
magic on. With me, she'd say everything you want to dream away. We are legends every day. That's what she told me. Turn your magic on. To me, she'd say everything you want to dream away. Under this pressure, under this weight, we are diamonds, and I feel my heart beating. I feel my heart underneath my skin. I feel my heart beating. You make me feel like I'm alive again. Said I can't go on, not in this